Have you ever looked at a really complex website, like Netflix or Airbnb, and just wondered, how do they even build that? Well, the secret isn't some crazy complex technology. It's actually a single powerful idea. And today, we're going to break that idea down. React Components. Okay, so let's just dive right in with an example. Take a look at this. It's a pretty standard interface, right? You've got a search bar up top, a whole list of videos. You can scroll through them, click on them. It feels alive. It's interactive. And this brings up the million-dollar question for anyone building software. How on earth do you build something like this with all its moving parts without your code turning into a complete and utter tangled mess? This is the exact problem React was designed to solve. And the answer, the whole secret sauce behind React, is really just a change in how you think about it. You have to stop seeing a web page as one giant single thing and start seeing it as a collection of smaller, independent, and reusable pieces.
This is how you start thinking in React. You literally just draw boxes around everything. That search bar at the top, that's a component. The whole list that holds all the videos, that's another component. And yeah, each individual video item in that list, you got it. That's a component too.
And to really get why this is such a game changer, think about how things used to be. For years, we had HTML, which is great for defining the static skeleton of a page, but React components, they're more like living building blocks. Each one is a self-contained little unit that has its own structure, its own logic, and its own style, all bundled up together. So, what is a component really? You might think it's something super complicated, but honestly, a React component is just a JavaScript function. That's it. Seriously. It's a function that you give some data to, and it spits back out a description of what should show up on the screen. It's a recipe for one piece of your UI. Okay, let's look at some real code so this isn't just theory. This is our video component. And look, just like we said, it's a function named video. It takes in an object with some video information, and it returns all the HTML for that one video item. It's a perfectly self-contained recipe. This quote from the React team really just nails it. The whole idea is composition. And honestly, the best way to think about this is with Legos. I mean, come on, who doesn't get Legos? You don't just start with a giant castle piece. No, you start with tiny little bricks. You snap those bricks together to make a wall, then you snap the walls together to make a room, and before you know it, you've built the whole castle. That's exactly how we build React apps. Okay, so let's take that Lego idea and see how it works in practice. How do we actually snap these little component bricks together to build something bigger and more useful? So here we have our video list component. Its job is pretty simple. Show a list of videos. Now look closely at the code. See that part that looks like an HTML tag? Video /? That's the magic right there. That's not HTML. That is us using our other component, the video component we just looked at. We're telling React, hey, for every video in our data, I want you to render one of those video components. That is composition. What this does is it creates a kind of family tree, what developers call a component hierarchy, or a component tree. You've got the parent, the video list, and its job is to organize all of its children. In this case, a whole bunch of video components. And each of those children can have their own children, like a thumbnail or a like button. It's components all the way down. All right, this is starting to make sense. We have our structure, we're nesting components. But wait a minute. How does each individual video component know which title and description to show? They can't all be the same video, right? The answer is a little thing called props, which is just short for properties. Think of props as information that a parent component passes down to its child. It's how we tell each component what makes it unique. It's how we make our components dynamic and reusable instead of static and boring. So let's follow the data and see exactly how this works. Our parent, the video list, is passing down a video object to each child video component through a prop. It's like putting a sticky note on a Lego brick that says, hey, you're the one with the blue title. The child component then gets that sticky note, reads it, and knows exactly what to display. This one-way street for data, from parent down to child, is what keeps React apps so organized and predictable. Okay, final piece of the puzzle. We've got the look, we've got the data, but how do we make it do stuff? How does that search bar actually, search? How do we make the page respond to the user? This is where state enters the picture. Now, if props are data passed down from a parent, state is a component's own personal memory. It's for things a component needs to remember all by itself, like what text the user has typed into a search box. And here's the really cool part. Whenever that state, that memory, changes, React is smart enough to automatically re-render the component and update the screen. That's the magic that makes it all feel interactive. And believe me, this isn't just some academic idea. This is how the biggest apps in the world are built. At Meta, where React was invented, their codebase has over 100,000 unique components. Just think about that. You literally cannot manage that level of complexity without breaking it all down into these small, isolated, reusable pieces. All right, let's boil it all down. What are the big takeaways here? First, you gotta think in components. Break everything down. Second, you compose those small components into bigger ones, just like Legos. Third, you pass data down from parent to child using props. And finally, you give components their own memory using state to make them interactive. You get those 4 things, you get React. But that leaves us with one last question, doesn't it? React is amazing for building the user interface, the part you can see and click. But what about everything else? What happens when you need different pages or you need to fetch data from a server? Well, that's where React, the library, joins forces with bigger frameworks. And that, my friends, is a story for another time.